West Virginia doesn't prepare you for what lives in its mountains. The forests are too dense, the hollows too deep, the abandoned mines too numerous, and the locals, the ones who've lived there for generations, they know things they won't tell outsiders, things they warn about in whispers over beers at roadside bars. We should have listened to those whispers, should have paid attention when the gas station attendant in Grafton refused to give us directions to the training site. Should have taken seriously the handwritten note someone left on our truck. Leave while you can, they hunt at night. But we were Marines. 8 Force Reconnaissance operators deployed for mountain warfare training in October 2019. We trained in Afghanistan's Hindu Kush, in the jungles of Okinawa, in urban combat zones across the Middle East. West Virginia mountains seemed easy by comparison. Remote, quiet, perfect for testing new equipment and tactics without civilian interference. The area was designated for military use in the 1960s, some kind of Cold War installation. Long abandoned now, just concrete bunkers and rusted fencing and miles of empty forest. Headquarters said it was perfect for our purposes. Isolated, challenging terrain, no environmental restrictions. What they didn't mention was why the installation was abandoned, why the locals avoided the entire mountain, why there were no hunting cabins, no hiking trails, no signs of human activity in an area that should have been prime recreation land. I'm Gunnery Sergeant Michael Torres, 31 years old, 10 years in the Corps. Sniper, 2 combat tours. I thought I'd seen everything worth being afraid of. Thought fear was something you managed, not something that controlled you. I was wrong about that, about a lot of things. Our team was small, elite, led by Captain James Morrison, 34, 12 years service, veteran of more operations than he could count. With us, Sergeant First Class David Chen, our demo expert, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, communications, Corporal Jackson, medic, Lance, Corporal Williams, Private First Class Carter, and Private First Class Thompson. 8 Marines, 5 days of mountain training. Standard cold weather operations, night movement, survival skills. Should have been routine. We inserted via truck convoy at 1600 hours. The drive up the mountain was unsettling. Single-lane road. Heavy forest on both sides. No cell service after the first 10 miles. And the trees, they were wrong somehow. Too quiet. No birds, no squirrels, just silence. "This place gives me the creeps," William said from the back of the truck. "It's just mountains," Jen replied. But even he didn't sound convinced. We passed through Grafton, small town, maybe 2,000 people. Old coal mining community that had seen better days. Most businesses were closed. Most houses looked abandoned. The few people we saw watched us with expressions that weren't quite hostile, but definitely weren't welcoming. At the town's only gas station, Morrison stopped to top off. The attendant, an older man, maybe 70, with the weathered look of someone who'd spent his life in these mountains, filled the tank but wouldn't make eye contact. "You boys heading up to the old site?" he finally asked. "Training exercise," Morrison confirmed. 5 days, standard operations. "Ain't nothing standard about that place." The man's hand shook slightly as he replaced the gas cap. "Folks around here, we don't go up there. Not in 50 years. Not since they shut down the facility. Not since people started disappearing." Disappearing? Hunters, hikers, couple of teenagers back in the 80s. They went up, never came back. Search parties found pieces. Park Service said it was bears, maybe a rogue mountain lion, but we know better. Know what? The attendant looked directly at Morrison for the first time. Fear in his eyes. Real, deep fear. The white things. The ones without heads. They came after the government left. Maybe they were always there. Maybe the government brought them. Don't matter. They're there now, and they don't like people on their mountain. White things without heads, Morrison repeated neutrally. Sir, I appreciate your concern, but you think I'm crazy. You think I'm some old mountain man telling ghost stories. Fine. But when you see 'em, and you will see 'em if you stay after dark, remember I warned you. Remember that the smart thing is to run. Get off that mountain fast as you can, because they're strong, they're fast, and they're always hungry. Morrison thanked him and paid. We drove on. Nobody spoke much after that. The attendant's fear had been real. You couldn't fake that kind of terror. But what he'd described headless white creatures hunting people, it sounded like folklore. Local legend to keep outsiders away. Every remote area had stories like that. We reached the insertion point at 1700 hours, old parking area near the abandoned facility, concrete bunkers visible through the trees, chain-link fencing mostly collapsed, warning signs so faded you couldn't read them anymore. Home sweet home, Rodriguez muttered as we unloaded gear. The facility was bigger than expected. Multiple buildings. What looked like a large central structure, maybe 3 stories, mostly underground. Ventilation shafts sticking up through the forest floor. And mines. Old coal mines from before the government took over. Boarded up, condemned. But you could still see the entrances. Dark holes leading into the mountain. Command, this is Recon 8. Rodriguez radioed. Insertion complete. Beginning operations. Copy, Recon 8. 5-day exercise. Radio check every 12 hours. Weather forecast is clear. Good hunting. We established base camp in a clearing near the main facility. Defensive perimeter. Proper security protocol. The sun was setting fast. Mountains swallow light early, and Morrison wanted camp secure before full dark. 2-hour watch rotations, he ordered. Pairs. Nods mandatory. This place is sketchy enough without getting surprised. Williams and Carter, you've got first watch. Everyone else get some rest. Long day tomorrow. I tried to sleep. Couldn't. Something about the forest was wrong. Too quiet. In Afghanistan, before enemy contact, there'd be this silence. Animals would stop making noise. Birds would flee. You'd get maybe 5 minutes warning if you were paying attention. That same silence was here. All around us. Like every living thing had fled. Like the forest was holding its breath. At 2300 hours, Carter's voice came through the radio. Quiet, controlled, but with an edge of fear that made everyone snap awake immediately. Contact, movement, west side of camp, visual on something, large. We grabbed weapons, moved to defensive positions, scanned with night vision. And there it was, at the edge of the clearing, just standing, watching, 8 feet tall, white, pale like corpse flesh. And no head, or rather the head was merged into the torso. Shoulders went straight to what might have been a face. I saw the suggestion of eyes, maybe a mouth, but no neck. No separation between body and head, like someone had pushed a head down into the chest and fused it there. "What the hell is that?" Williams whispered. It didn't move, just stood there, silent. No breathing sounds, no vocalizations, just presence. And then, slowly, it raised one arm. Massive. Each finger easily 6 inches long, pointed at our camp, and held the position. Taking the shot, Chen aimed his rifle. "Hold," Morrison ordered. "We don't know what it is. Could be civilian, could be—" The thing moved fast. Impossibly fast for something that size. One moment standing at the tree line, next moment gone. Disappeared into the forest without a sound. No crashing through brush, no breaking branches, just gone. "Tell me, someone got that on camera," Morrison demanded. "Got it," Rodriguez confirmed, checking his helmet cam. All of it, 8 feet tall, white, no visible head or neck, arms too long. Moved at approximately 30 miles per hour based on frame analysis. That's not human. That's not possible. It's possible because we just saw it, Jackson said. Question is, what is it, and is there more than one? As if answering his question, something moved in the trees to our north, then east, then south, different positions, multiple contacts, circling us, and we could see them now with nods. 4, maybe 5. All white, all massive, all headless, all silent. Just standing in the trees, watching, waiting. Defensive positions, Morrison was shouting now. Overlapping fields of fire, weapons free if they approach within 50 meters. We formed up, 8 Marines in a circle, backs to each other, scanning outward. And those things, those creatures, they just stood there, not approaching, not retreating, just watching. Like they were studying us, learning, deciding what we were and whether we were worth the effort. One of them moved closer, crossed the 50-meter threshold. Chen fired, single shot, center mass. We saw the impact, saw the thing jerk. But it didn't fall, didn't even slow down, just turned its face, the area where a face should be, looked at Chen, and made a sound, not vocalization. A sound from inside, wet, grinding, like bones breaking and reforming. And its chest opened, split horizontally, and inside was teeth. Rows of them. A mouth in the torso where a mouth shouldn't be, and it was smiling. Actually smiling at us with a mouth in its chest. "Fall back," Morrison ordered. "To the facility! Move! Move!" We ran, full sprint, abandoning camp, grabbing only essential gear, and behind us those things followed. Not running, walking, but keeping pace somehow, like they knew we couldn't outrun them, like they were herding us, pushing us toward the facility, toward the buildings and the bunkers and the mines. We reached the main structure. Heavy door, still sealed. Chen blew it with a small charge. We piled inside. Darkness. Concrete. Industrial smell. And silence. The things didn't follow us inside, just stood outside. We could see them through the broken windows. 5 of them, maybe 6. White shapes in the darkness. Silent. Patient. What are those things? Thompson was hyperventilating. What the hell are those things? Grafton Monsters, Rodriguez said quietly. He was looking at his phone. No service, but he had downloaded files. I researched the area before deployment. There's a local legend, Grafton Monster, first reported in 1964. White humanoid, 8 to 9 feet tall, no visible head, reported near this exact area. I thought it was folklore. I thought, it's real. Morrison cut him off. Whatever those things are, they're real. And there's a pack of them. And they just herded us into this facility like they were planning it. Why? I don't know. But we need to figure out what this place is, why it was abandoned, and whether there's another way out. Because I don't think those things are leaving. I think they're going to wait until we come out. And then they're going to kill us. We explored the facility. Old government installation. 1960s construction. Concrete and steel, multiple levels going down. We found offices, lab equipment, examination tables, holding cells, and paperwork. Lots of classified paperwork. Old, faded, but readable. This was a research facility, Chen read from a document. Classified project, 1962 to 1967. Study of Jesus. Study of indigenous cryptid population. Attempted capture and analysis. Multiple subjects acquired. Subjects designated, Grafton type. Origin unknown. Capabilities: extreme strength, durability, night vision. Behavior: highly aggressive, pack hunting, intelligent. They were studying those things, Rodriguez said. The government knew about them, was trying to capture them, research them. What happened? Jackson asked. Why did they abandon the facility? Chen kept reading. His face went pale. Subjects broke containment. April 1967. Multiple casualties. Facility evacuation ordered. Site sealed. Ongoing surveillance recommended but never implemented. Danger level: extreme. Recommendation: permanent closure. Avoid all contact. They lost control, Morrison said. Those things escaped, killed people, and the government just abandoned the place. Left those creatures here, and now we're trapped with them. A sound from outside. Scraping. Metal on concrete. We looked through the windows. The creatures were moving, not leaving, moving closer, surrounding the building completely. And they were making that sound, that wet grinding sound, all of them. At once, like they were communicating, coordinating. They're planning something, I said. They're not just waiting, they're working together, strategizing. Can they get in? Williams asked. As if answering, something hit the door, hard, the steel door we'd entered through. It bent slightly, another impact, larger dent. Those things were strong enough to break through eventually, and we were trapped in an abandoned government facility with limited ammunition, no support, no escape route, and a pack of creatures that shouldn't exist but very much did. We need a plan, Morrison said. Options, anyone. The mines, Thompson pointed to a map on the wall. This facility connects to the old coal mines, multiple tunnels. Some of them lead out different parts of the mountain. If we can reach them, we can escape underground. Or get trapped underground with those things, Rodriguez countered. You have a better idea? Another impact on the door, metal screaming. The creatures were getting in. It was only a matter of time. We could try to hold the facility, try to fight them here, but 8 Marines against 5 or 6 creatures that could shrug off bullets and rip through steel. The math didn't work. We go down, Morrison decided. Into the mines. Find an exit. Move fast. Stay together. If those things follow us underground. He didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. Underground with those creatures would be worse than fighting them in the facility. But at least we'd be moving. At least we'd have a chance. We gathered gear, checked weapons, prepared for descent. And outside, those white headless things kept hitting the door, kept making that grinding sound, kept hunting. 8 Marines entering an abandoned mine system. 5 or 6 Grafton monsters that could break steel and ignore bullets. Underground, in darkness, with creatures that had been killing people in these mountains for decades. The old gas station attendant had been right. We should have left when we could, should have listened to the warnings, should have respected the folklore. But it was too late now. The smart thing would have been to run, to leave the mountain, to get away while we had the chance. Instead, we were going down, into the mines, into darkness, where those white things had lived and hunted long before the government found them, long before we arrived, long before anyone was stupid enough to call them monsters instead of what they really were. Apex predators, native to these mountains, and we were prey in their territory. The grinding sound got louder, the door was failing, and we descended into the darkness. 8 Marines with flashlights and rifles, against things that had survived government research, that had killed trained personnel, that had been hunting in these mountains since before we were born. We should have listened to the gas station attendant. We should have left while we could. Now we were trapped, and the white things were coming. The mines were worse than the facility. At least above ground we had space, room to maneuver, multiple exit routes. Down here, in the abandoned coal tunnels, we had darkness and narrow passages and the constant weight of the mountain pressing down. The access point was in the facility basement. Steel door marked Mineshaft 3, condemned 1955. Chen blew the lock. The door opened to reveal a shaft angling down into blackness. Old wooden supports, rusted rail tracks, the smell of earth and decay, and something else, something organic, rot. That smell, Jackson said. That's decomposition. Something died down there, recently. Or something lives down there, Rodriguez corrected, and leaves bodies. We descended single file, Morrison on point, me on rear security, flashlights cutting through darkness that felt solid. Like the shadows had weight. The tunnel was maybe 6 feet wide, 7-foot ceiling. Enough room to move, but not enough to feel comfortable. Not enough to dodge if something came at you fast. The wooden supports were in bad shape. Some collapsed, others rotting. The whole structure felt unstable. One good shock and sections might come down, bury us, trap us. And those things, those Grafton Monsters, they were strong enough to cause that shock. Strong enough to collapse tunnels on purpose. Command, this is Recon 8. Rodriguez tried the radio. We are descending into mine system, radio check. Static, heavy static, and underneath it something else, that grinding sound. The same sound the creatures made. Like the radio was picking up their communication. Impossible, radio doesn't work that way. But it was there. Wet. Grinding. Wrong. Radio's compromised, Rodriguez said. No comms, we're on our own. 200 meters down. The tunnel branched. 3 directions. Morrison checked the map we'd found in the facility. Old surveyor's map from 1953, before the government took over, before the creatures broke containment. The map showed multiple exits, different parts of the mountain. If we could reach one, if we could navigate through miles of unstable tunnels, we might escape. Left branch, Morrison decided. Leads northeast. Should exit near the main road. 3 miles as the crow flies, maybe 5 through the tunnels. We went left. The tunnel narrowed. 5 feet wide now, ceiling lower, support beams closer together, claustrophobia setting in, and behind us a sound. Faint. Rhythmic. Footsteps. But wrong somehow. Too heavy, too slow, deliberate. Contact rear, I reported. Something's following us. Speed up, Morrison ordered. Double time. Move. We moved faster. Half jog through unstable tunnels, our flashlights bouncing, shadows dancing, and that sound behind us, it matched our pace, stayed the same distance back, not gaining, not falling behind, just following, patient. Like it knew where we were going, like it knew we couldn't escape. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber. Old work site, rusted equipment, mining tools, and something else. Bones, human bones, scattered across the floor. Femurs, ribs, skulls, dozens of them, maybe more. They bring prey here, Chen said quietly. This is a feeding site. They hunt on the surface, bring bodies down here, consume them in private. How many? Williams asked. Dozens, maybe hundreds over the years. The hunters who disappeared, the hikers, the teenagers, everyone the locals warned about. This is where they ended up. Thompson was counting. I see at least 40 skulls, just in this chamber. How long have these things been hunting? 1964 was the first reported sighting, Rodriguez said. But that document said the government was studying them in 1962. They were here before that. Probably decades before, maybe centuries. Why hasn't anyone stopped them? Who would believe it? Headless white monsters living in coal mines? It sounds insane. The few people who saw them and survived, like that gas station attendant, nobody listens. Nobody believes. Until you're down here, in their territory, looking at their kill site, then you believe. Then it's too late. Movement in the shadows. All of us spun, rifles up, flashlights converging. And there it was, one of them, standing in a tunnel entrance we hadn't checked. 8 feet tall, white flesh glowing in our lights. No head, just those massive shoulders and that chest that could open into teeth. Silent. Watching. Chen fired. 3-round burst, center mass. The creature jerked, staggered, but didn't fall, didn't retreat, just stood there. And its chest opened, that horizontal mouth, rows of teeth. And it made that sound, that grinding, like it was laughing at our bullets, like it was mocking our weapons. Run! Morrison didn't try to fight it. Knew we couldn't. We ran, full sprint, through the chamber, past the bones, into another tunnel, narrower, lower ceiling. We had to crouch, duck under support beams, and behind us, that thing followed, not running, walking, but somehow keeping up, its footsteps echoing, getting closer. The tunnel forked again. Morrison went right without checking the map. Pure instinct, survival. Get away from the thing behind us. Find space. Find exit. Find anything that wasn't being hunted in darkness by something that shouldn't exist. We ran for maybe 3 minutes. Felt like hours. The tunnel twisted, turned, descended further, and suddenly Williams, running third in line, screamed. Not fear, pain, cut short. We stopped. Turned. He was gone, just gone. In the second it took us to look back, something had grabbed him, pulled him into a side passage, dragged him away. Williams! Carter started toward the side passage. Wait! I grabbed him. It's a trap. They're separating us, taking us one at a time. We can't leave him. We don't have a choice. He's already... A sound from the side passage. Wet, tearing, breaking. And Williams screamed again. Once. Brief. Then silence. And something is thrown back into our tunnel. An arm. Williams' arm. Torn off at the shoulder. Bite marks. Massive bite marks. Those teeth in the chest. That mouth that shouldn't exist. Carter vomited. Thompson was crying. Rodriguez just stared. And from that side passage one of them emerged. Different from the one that had been following us. Shorter. Maybe 7 feet, but wider. More muscular. And its chest mouth was stained red. Fresh blood, William's blood. It held up William's arm, looked at us, and dropped it, deliberate, threatening. This is what we do to prey. This is your future. Run all you want. We're faster, stronger, and you're in our home. We ran. Terror driving us now. Not tactics, not training, just raw survival instinct. The tunnel sloped down, sharply. We were descending deeper into the mountain, away from exits, away from surface. But we couldn't stop, couldn't turn back. Those things were everywhere, all around us, using the tunnel system like they owned it, because they did own it, had owned it for decades, knew every passage, every fork, every trap. The tunnel opened into another chamber, larger, old mine elevator shaft in the center. Going down. Further down. And around the perimeter, exit tunnels, 6 of them. Different directions. And standing in front of each exit, blocking each route, one of them. 6 Grafton Monsters. 6 white headless creatures, all silent, all watching, all waiting. They herded us, Morrison said, pushed us here, blocked our escapes. This is where they wanted us. This is where they... One moved, fast, straight at Jackson. He fired, full auto, hit it multiple times, slowed it, didn't stop it. It grabbed him, lifted him like he weighed nothing, and its chest opened, that mouth, those teeth. It bit into Jackson's shoulder, ripped, tore. He screamed, kept screaming as it fed, as it consumed him while he was still alive, still conscious, still able to feel everything. "Fall back." Morrison was shooting now. All of us were. Concentrated fire on the creature holding Jackson. It finally released him, dropped his body. Wounded. Actually wounded from dozens of rounds, but Jackson was dead. Throat torn out. Shoulder destroyed. Eyes still open. Still aware in those final seconds. We ran. Picked a tunnel at random, sprinted. And they followed, all six. No more patience, no more hurting. Now it was chase. Now they were closing in. And we were running out of tunnel, running out of mountain, running out of options. The tunnel ended. Dead end. Collapsed section. Blocked completely. We were trapped. 7 Marines, 6 Grafton Monsters behind us. No exit, no escape, no hope. Defensive position. Morrison was trying to maintain order, trying to use training. But training didn't cover this. Training didn't prepare you for fighting in collapsed mine tunnels against creatures that ate bullets and ripped people apart with bare hands. Overlapping fire, aim for legs, try to cripple them. We formed a line. 7 rifles, limited ammunition, and those things approached, slow, deliberate, taking their time. They knew we were finished, knew this tunnel was a dead end, knew we had nowhere to go, so they could afford to be patient, could afford to savor it. The first one reached us. Chen shot its leg, knee joint, multiple hits. The leg buckled. The creature fell. But even falling, it grabbed, caught Thompson's ankle, pulled. Thompson fell, started screaming, tried to kick free. The creature's chest opened, bit into Thompson's leg, tore muscle, broke bone. Thompson's screaming reached a pitch I didn't know humans could reach. Rodriguez threw a grenade. He, fragmentation. It exploded among the creatures. Shrapnel, concussion. In the confined space, it should have been devastating. It knocked them back, wounded them, but didn't kill them. Didn't even stop them for long. They recovered, stood, kept coming. "We need another way." Carter was hysterical now. "We need out. We need—" "There." Morrison pointed. A small opening. Near the ceiling of the collapsed section, maybe 3 feet wide, probably led to another tunnel system, probably. "Climb! Go! Now!" Rodriguez went first, squeezed through, called back. "It connects, another tunnel, go, go!" Carter went next, then Morrison, then me, and behind us those creatures. They were too large, couldn't fit through the opening, but they were trying. Reaching with those long arms, trying to grab, trying to pull us back, trying to stop our escape. Chen was last, covering our retreat, firing, keeping them back. And just as he reached the opening, just as he started to climb, one of them grabbed him, caught his leg, started pulling. Chen screamed, grabbed the edges of the opening, held on. But that thing was stronger, much stronger, and it was winning. Morrison grabbed Chen's arms, tried to pull him through, tug of war, human versus monster, and the monster was winning. Chen was screaming, bones breaking, leg dislocating. That thing pulling harder, harder, and then it let go, just released him. Chen fell forward through the opening, into our tunnel, safe, except his leg. His leg was twisted, wrong angle, shattered, and when we pulled him fully through, we saw why the creature had released him. It hadn't let go. It had ripped his foot off, torn it away at the ankle. Chen was screaming, bleeding, dying without immediate treatment. "Tourniquet!" I was already working, tying off the stump, stopping the bleeding. But Chen was in shock, screaming, thrashing. "Someone hold him! Keep him still!" From the other side of the opening, those creatures. They couldn't follow, too large, but they could watch. And that's what they were doing. Standing. Watching. Making that grinding sound. And I realized they'd let us go. On purpose, let some of us escape. Because Chen was bleeding, dying, would slow us down, would make us easier to catch later. They were hunting smart, taking some prey now, letting others go, because we'd have to stop, have to help Chen, have to slow down. And then they'd find another route, come at us from different tunnels, finish the hunt. "How many exits in this system?" Rodriguez asked Morrison. Morrison checked the map. His hands were shaking. "Dozens, maybe hundreds. This is the old deep system. Goes down another 200 meters. Some tunnels are collapsed. Some connect to other mines. It's a maze. We could wander for days and never find an exit. Or we could run into them again in 5 minutes. Yeah, that too." Chen was sedated. Morphine from Jackson's medical kit. Jackson, who was dead. Williams, who was dead. Thompson, who was probably dead. We'd left him behind when that thing bit into his leg. 3 Marines dead. 1 crippled. 4 of us left. Morrison, Rodriguez, Carter, and me. 4 against 6. Underground, in their territory. In tunnels they knew better than we could ever learn. With limited ammunition, no support, no comms, no hope of extraction. "We keep moving," Morrison decided. "Find an exit, any exit, surface, call for help, get air support. But we keep moving, because stopping means dying. And I'm not dying in a coal mine in West Virginia being hunted by things that shouldn't exist." We moved, slowly, carrying Chen. He was unconscious now. Breathing but barely. Blood loss. Shock. Infection probable. He needed a hospital, needed surgery, needed help we couldn't provide. The tunnel descended. Always down. Never up. Like the mountain itself wanted us deeper. Wanted us trapped. Wanted us in the dark where those white things hunted best. And somewhere behind us. Somewhere in the tunnels. Somewhere in the darkness. They were coming, patient, silent, inevitable. Because this was their mountain, their home, their hunting ground. And we were just the latest prey, the latest humans who ignored warnings and entered territory that didn't belong to us. The latest meal for creatures that had been feeding on people in these mountains for longer than anyone could remember. 4 Marines. 6 Grafton Monsters. Miles of dark tunnels and no way out. The grinding sound echoed through the darkness, closer than before. They'd found another route. They were coming. And we were running out of places to run. 2 hours underground. Could have been 2 days. Time meant nothing in the tunnels. Just darkness and fear and the constant weight of knowing they were behind us. Following. Hunting. Taking their time because we had nowhere to go. Chen died 30 minutes ago. Blood loss, shock, infection setting in fast. We'd tried to keep him comfortable, tried to keep him quiet. But near the end, he started screaming again, delirious, calling out. And that grinding sound responded, from multiple directions. They heard him, knew where we were converging. We left his body, had to. Couldn't carry a corpse through unstable tunnels while being hunted. Carter said a prayer, quick, quiet. Then we moved. And I didn't look back. Didn't want to see what would happen to Chen's body when those things found it. 4 Marines. Now 3. Morrison, Rodriguez, Carter, me, against 6 Grafton monsters and miles of dark tunnels. The math kept getting worse. "This tunnel," Rodriguez said, checking the map. "It's marked different. Government edition, 1963, not part of the original mine system. Where does it lead?" The map calls it Research Level 3, whatever that means. We had no better options. Every tunnel seemed to lead down, deeper into the mountain, further from exits. This government tunnel was at least different. Maybe led somewhere we could defend. Maybe led somewhere they didn't know about. Maybe the tunnel was different. Newer construction, reinforced concrete instead of wooden supports. Lighting fixtures, long dead but still mounted, and doors. Steel doors every 100 meters, sealed, locked, laboratory style. This is where they studied them, Morrison said. The creatures. This is the research level, where they kept the specimens, tried to understand what they were dealing with. Carter found a door that wasn't fully sealed. Hinges rusted. We forced it open. Room beyond. Observation cell. One-way mirror. And inside the cell, bones, large bones, Grafton Monster size, but arranged, deliberately positioned, like someone had tried to reconstruct the skeleton for study. They caught one, Rodriguez said. Brought it down here, kept it, studied it, killed it maybe, or it died in captivity. Papers on a desk. Old, yellowed, but readable. Research notes. Dr. Sarah Mitchell. Lead researcher. 1963 to 1966, her handwriting was precise, clinical, until the final entries. Then it got erratic, desperate. Morrison read aloud. Specimen 3 died after 6 months captivity. Autopsy revealed biology inconsistent with known terrestrial life. Cellular structure unknown. No recognizable organs except digestive system. Pain response extreme. Intelligence higher than expected. Subject appeared to understand captivity. Appeared to communicate with others outside the facility. Since Specimen 3's death, remaining population has become aggressive. Multiple containment breaches. Personnel casualties increasing. Recommendation: immediate evacuation and permanent site abandonment. They communicated, Carter said. The creatures. They knew one of their own was captured, killed, and they retaliated. That's why the facility was abandoned. That's why everyone left. The creatures came for revenge. And they're still here, I added. 50 years later. Still protecting this mountain. Still killing anyone who enters their territory. This isn't random. This is deliberate. This is payback for what the government did. A sound from behind us. That grinding, close, very close. We spun. Flashlights cutting through darkness. And there, at the end of the corridor, 3 of them, standing, blocking our retreat. Silent, patient, waiting. Forward, Morrison ordered. Find another exit. Move. We ran. Through the research level, past more observation cells, more laboratories, more evidence of what the government had done, how they'd captured these creatures, tortured them, killed them, all in the name of science, of understanding, of weapons development probably. And the creatures remembered enough to hunt anyone who came to this mountain, remembered enough to make sure nobody left alive, remembered enough to turn these tunnels into a tomb for anyone stupid enough to ignore the warnings. The corridor ended at a large chamber, central research area, multiple examination tables, surgical equipment, restraints, and bones, dozens of skeletons, human and creature both. Researchers who had died in the evacuation, creatures who had died in the research, all mixed together, death equalizing predator and prey. This way! Rodriguez had found another door, led to a shaft, going up, finally going up instead of down. Emergency exit, maybe. Elevator shaft. The elevator itself was long gone, but the shaft remained. Ladder built into the wall, rusty but intact. We climb, Morrison said. Up, back to surface, Back to safety. Go! Rodriguez went first, started climbing. Carter next, then Morrison. I took rear security, covering our retreat, and from the central chamber they came. All 6, moving together. Coordinated. One massive pack. And they weren't walking anymore, they were running. Full speed, closing the distance, coming for us. I fired, full auto, all remaining ammunition. Hit them, slowed them, but didn't stop them, never stopped them. They crashed into the chamber. One grabbed the ladder, shook it. Hard. The entire shaft vibrated. Rodriguez almost lost his grip. Held on, kept climbing. "Climb faster!" I was screaming. "They're right here, they're—" One reached up, grabbed my ankle, pulled. I fell, hit the floor, 20 feet. Impact knocked the air out of me. Rifle gone. Lost in the darkness. Just my sidearm, and 6 of them, surrounding me, looking down. Chests opening. Those mouths, those teeth. All of them smiling. This was it. This was how I died. In an abandoned government research facility. In the darkness. Being eaten by things that shouldn't exist. All because we'd ignored warnings. All because we thought we were apex predators. Thought we were safe. We were never safe. Not from the moment we entered their mountain. One leaned down, reached for me, and a gunshot. From above. Rodriguez. He'd stopped climbing. Was shooting from the ladder. 3-round bursts, precise. Professional. Hit the creature, reaching for me. Hit it in the legs, knees. Crippled it. It fell, crashed into another, created confusion, created an opening. "Run!" Rodriguez shouted. "Find another ladder, I'll cover." I ran, pure adrenaline, body screaming from the fall but moving anyway. Survival override. Found another shaft. Smaller, maintenance access, ladder narrower but intact. Started climbing, fast, no looking back, and below, Rodriguez kept firing, kept buying time, kept sacrificing himself so I could escape. I climbed maybe 50 feet, heard Morrison and Carter above me. Still climbing, getting closer to surface, and below, silence. Rodriguez had stopped firing. The grinding sound, multiple sources, and Rodriguez screaming, brief, wet, ending suddenly. 4 Marines, now 2, Morrison and me. Carter was gone too. I'd heard him scream maybe 30 seconds ago. Fallen from the ladder. Or pulled down. Didn't matter. Dead either way. Just Morrison and me now. And 6 of those things. And 200 vertical feet of shaft before we reached surface. My arms were burning. Muscles failing. I'd been climbing for what felt like hours. Morrison above me was slowing down, exhausted. Both of us running on fumes, running on fear. And below, sounds. Climbing sounds. They were following. Coming up the shaft. Pursuing us even here, even in tight spaces, because they wanted us dead. Wanted everyone dead who entered their mountain. "Keep climbing," Morrison gasped. "Almost there. I can see light. Exit. We're close. Just keep—" A sound above. Wrong sound. Metal stress. Something heavy hitting the ladder. Morrison stopped climbing. Started falling, not dropping, controlled fall. Like he'd let go of the ladder, chosen to fall. He hit me, full force. Both of us fell. 20 feet, 30. Crashed into a platform. Maintenance level. Broken bones. Pain. And Morrison was gone. His head, torn off, just gone. Body there, but head missing. And above, on the ladder, one of them. It had climbed faster, gotten ahead of us, circled around somehow, waited at the top. And when Morrison reached it, it had grabbed his head, removed it, dropped his body on top of me. I was alone. Last Marine, last survivor. And they were above me, below me, everywhere. This was the end. Had to be the end. No way one person escaped 6 of these things. No way anyone survived this. I crawled, Morrison's body on top of me, crushing me. I pushed it off, rolled, found my sidearm, checked magazine, 4 rounds, 4 bullets against 6 immortal creatures. Not enough. Would never be enough. But better than nothing. Better than dying without fighting. The platform had a tunnel, horizontal, old ventilation shaft, small, maybe 3 feet diameter, too small for them. Maybe small enough they couldn't follow, maybe my only chance. I crawled in, ignoring pain, ignoring injury, ignoring everything except survival. The tunnel was tight, shoulder width. I had to push with my feet, pull with my hands, inch by inch, slow, but moving. Getting away, creating distance. Behind me, that grinding sound. Frustrated, angry. They'd found the tunnel entrance. Were trying to follow. Too large. Couldn't fit. And I kept crawling, kept moving, kept surviving. The tunnel sloped up. Slightly, then more. I was ascending. Rising toward surface, toward freedom, toward survival. The tunnel got tighter, almost stuck. Had to exhale completely, squeeze through, but still moving, still climbing. Light, actual light. Not flashlight, real light, daylight. Filtering through cracks above, the tunnel was ending, opening to surface. I could see sky, could see trees, could see escape. I pushed harder, desperate. Almost there, almost free. And a sound behind me. In the tunnel. Scraping. Something was following. Something had found a way. Something wasn't giving up. That grinding sound. Close. Too close. Right behind me. I squeezed through the last section. Emerged onto the mountain surface. Daylight. Fresh air. And turned. Looked back into the tunnel. Saw it. One of them. It had compressed itself somehow. Squeezed into the tunnel. Was following. Was almost through. Its chest mouth open. Those teeth. Coming for me. Reaching. Grabbing. I fired. All 4 rounds. Point blank into its face. Into that area where a head should be. The creature jerked. Stopped. And for the first time I saw actual damage. Saw it hurt. Saw it dying. The bullets at close range. Direct hits to whatever passed for its brain. It slumped. Blocked the tunnel, dead. Actually dead. I stumbled away from the tunnel entrance. Fell. Rolled down a hillside. Crashed through brush. And didn't stop. Kept running, kept moving, down the mountain, toward the road, toward civilization, toward anywhere that wasn't those tunnels. That wasn't those creatures, that wasn't death in the darkness. I reached the road at sunset. Flagged down a truck, old pickup, local driver. He took one look at me. Blood, dirt, injuries, and didn't ask questions. Just drove. Fast, away from the mountain. Away from the facility. Away from the mines. At the hospital in Grafton, they asked what happened. I told them training accident. Fell in the mines, got separated from my team. They're still up there. Need rescue. Need help. Need everything. But I knew. I knew there was nothing to rescue. Morrison was dead. Rodriguez was dead. Carter was dead. Chen was dead. Jackson was dead. Williams was dead. Thompson was dead. 7 Marines dead. 1 survivor. 1 witness. 1 person who knew the truth about what lived in those mountains. What hunted in those mines, what killed anyone who ignored the warnings. The gas station attendant visited me in the hospital. Stood in the doorway. Didn't say anything. Just nodded. Like he understood. Like he knew. Like he'd seen this before. Seen other survivors. other witnesses, other people who learned too late that the warnings were real. "You the only one?" he finally asked. "Yes." "You tell them what killed your friends?" "I tried. They don't believe me. Say it was cave-ins, accidents, panic, mass hallucination. They're sending recovery teams to find the bodies, but they won't find anything. Those things, they don't leave evidence." "No, they don't." He pulled something from his pocket. Photograph, old, faded. Showed a young man in Army uniform, 1968. "My son, he went up there. Government research project. Came back different, traumatized. Wouldn't talk about what he'd seen. What they'd done to those creatures. Killed himself 6 months later. You survived. That's more than most do. But surviving don't mean you're alive. Not really. Part of you stays in those tunnels. Part of you stays with them forever." He left, and I stared at the ceiling. And I knew he was right. I'd survived, but 7 of my brothers hadn't. 7 Marines who trusted me, who followed orders, who did everything right. And they died anyway because those creatures were faster, stronger, smarter, and we were just prey in their territory. The white things in the mountains, the Grafton Monsters. They were still there, still hunting, still killing, and someday someone else would ignore the warnings, would enter the mountain, would think they were prepared, and they'd learn. Like we learned. Like everyone learns eventually. That some places belong to things older than us. Some mountains aren't for climbing. Some mines aren't for exploring. And some warnings should never be ignored. But they will be ignored, they always are. And the white things will be waiting. Patient. Silent. Eternal. Ready for the next group of prey. The next humans who think they're hunters instead of hunted. The next casualties in a war that's been going on since before anyone can remember. Since before warnings were necessary. Since before people knew enough to be afraid. 8 Marines entered those mountains. 1 came out. And he'll never stop hearing that grinding sound. Never stop seeing those chest mouths opening. Never stop remembering his brothers dying in the darkness. Never be free of the white things that hunt in the deep places of West Virginia. Never be free. The investigation took 2 weeks. Military police, OSI, even FBI got involved because it happened on federal land. 8 Marines deployed, 7 dead. 1 survivor with a story about headless white creatures living in abandoned coal mines. A story nobody wanted to believe. The recovery teams went up, found the facility, found the mines, found evidence of what we'd encountered. The research level, the bones, the documents. But they didn't find the creatures, didn't see them. Went during the day with large groups, made noise, stayed together. And those things, those Grafton Monsters, they're smart enough to hide when facing overwhelming force. They found bodies, some of them. Chen's body in the tunnels, Morrison's headless corpse, Rodriguez torn apart. But Williams, Jackson, Thompson, nothing. No remains, no trace. The creatures had taken them, consumed them, disposed of them in whatever way they dispose of prey. "You experienced a traumatic event," the psychiatrist told me in my 3rd session. "Cave-ins, separation from your team, darkness, stress. The human mind can create very convincing scenarios to explain trauma. What you think you saw, the white creatures, the attacks, these are trauma responses. Your brain trying to process overwhelming fear by creating external threats." "I killed one," I said. "Shot it 4 times point blank. It died. That's not hallucination, that's real." The recovery teams found no bodies. No evidence of any creatures. Just collapsed mine tunnels, unstable terrain, documented hazards. 7 Marines died in those tunnels. That's tragic. But they died to accidents, to terrain, not to monsters. The research documents were fiction, part of Cold War psychological testing. The government ran experiments on fear responses, created fake documentation about cryptids to test how personnel would react. The facility wasn't studying creatures, it was studying humans, how we respond to perceived threats. You found those documents. Read them in a high-stress situation, and your mind made them real. I didn't argue. Arguing meant more sessions, more medication, more psychiatric evaluation. The Marines wanted me back on active duty, wanted to forget this incident, wanted it classified as training accident, move on, learn from mistakes. So I nodded. Agreed. Said I understood. Said I was recovering. They medically retired me. PTSD. Honorable discharge. Full benefits. And a classified NDA about the incident. Nothing I saw or experienced was to be discussed publicly. National security. Ongoing operations. Standard procedure. The official report, training accident. 8 Marines conducting mountain warfare exercises encountered hazardous terrain. Multiple cave-ins. 7 casualties. 1 survivor. Lessons learned. Improved planning, better terrain analysis, stricter safety protocols. The facility was resecured. The area designated off-limits. No future operations authorized. They got that last part right, at least. Off-limits. Because those things were still there. Still hunting. And the military knew it. Maybe not officially, maybe not in written reports. But someone knew. Someone had known since 1967 when the research facility was abandoned. Someone had decided these creatures were too dangerous to engage. Too difficult to kill. Easier to just avoid them, fence them in, warn people away, and hope nobody else died. But people did die. Every few years. Hikers, hunters, teenagers exploring the old mines. Most bodies were never recovered. Most deaths were never reported. Just disappeared people in a region where disappearances were common enough that nobody investigated too hard. I stayed in West Virginia, couldn't leave. The gas station attendant, his name was Earl, he understood. "You're marked," he said. "Like my son was marked. You survived, but you can't run from it. It follows you in your head, in your dreams. Easier to stay close. Face it, accept it, than to run and never find peace." He was right. I tried leaving. Went to Ohio for a month, couldn't sleep, couldn't function. Kept seeing them. Kept hearing that grinding sound, kept feeling like I was still in the tunnels, still being hunted. Came back to Grafton, rented a room, got a job at a local garage. Lived quietly. And watched. I found records, old newspaper articles, missing persons reports going back decades. 1964. 2 teenagers disappeared near the old mine. Never found. 1971. Hunter went into the mountains. Truck found abandoned. Body never recovered. 1985. Couple camping. Gone. 1993. 3 hikers. Vanished. 2008. Researcher studying local wildlife. Disappeared. 2015. Mountain biker. Missing. And on. And on. Dozens of people over 50 years. All in the same area. All near those mines. All gone without a trace. The pattern was clear if you looked. But nobody looked. Not officially. Local police attributed it to dangerous terrain. Park Service blamed bears or accidents. Federal agencies weren't interested in small-town disappearances. And the few locals who knew the truth, like Earl, they kept quiet. Because who would believe them? Who would take seriously warnings about headless white monsters living in coal mines? I tried warning people. Posted online. Cryptid forums. Reddit. YouTube comments. Don't go to the mines near Grafton. Real danger there. not folklore. Got called crazy, got laughed at, got dismissed as another attention seeker making up stories. One video producer offered to pay me for an interview, make a documentary. I refused. This wasn't entertainment. This was warning. This was trying to save lives. 3 years after the incident, I met Sarah. She was researching Appalachian cryptids for her thesis. Anthropology. She'd heard about me, the Marine who survived, the witness who'd seen the Grafton Monsters. "I want to hear your story," she said over coffee in town. "Not for sensationalism, for understanding. These legends exist for reasons. They encode real dangers, real knowledge. I think the Grafton Monster stories are warnings about something actual, something dangerous, and I think you know what that something is." I told her everything. The facility, the creatures, the hunt, my brothers dying, how I survived. She listened without interrupting, took notes, asked questions that showed she understood. She believed me. "The government created this situation," she said when I finished. "They found these creatures, indigenous to these mountains, living peacefully until humans started mining. Then the government captured them, studied them, killed them, and the survivors retaliated, became aggressive, started hunting humans. The creatures aren't evil. They're defensive, protecting their territory from a species that's proven to be a threat. Does it matter? Evil or defensive, they kill people. They need to be stopped. Can they be stopped? Your team tried. 8 trained Marines with modern weapons. 7 died. The creatures survived, have survived for decades despite everything thrown at them. Maybe stopping them isn't the answer. Maybe avoiding them is. Maybe respecting their territory is. People won't avoid them if they don't believe they exist. Then make them believe. Tell your story. Document it. Create undeniable evidence. Force people to pay attention. I tried. Nobody listens. They think I'm crazy. Because you're one voice, one witness. But you're not the only survivor. Earl's son survived the 1967 incident. Killed himself, but he wrote journals. Left evidence. There are others. Other people over the years who encountered these creatures and lived. Who told stories. Who were dismissed. If we gather their testimonies, if we compile the evidence, if we show the pattern, people will have to listen. She was right. We started researching. Found Earl's son's journals. Found police reports. Found witnesses. Built a case that something real lived in those mountains. Something dangerous. Something that had killed dozens of people over 50 years and would kill dozens more unless people started taking the warnings seriously. We published online. Website, PDF, video testimonials, everything documented, everything sourced. And we waited for response. Expected ridicule. Expected dismissal. Got some of that. But also got something else. Belief. People who'd grown up in the area, who'd heard stories from grandparents, who'd lost family to accidents in those mountains. They believed. They knew. The local response was interesting. Some people were angry we'd exposed the truth. Said we'd bring cryptid hunters, thrill seekers, idiots who'd get themselves killed. Others were grateful. Said it was time someone spoke up. Time the government admitted what they'd created. Time the warnings were taken seriously. The military wasn't happy. I got a visit from 2 men in suits, no names, no badges, just threats. Stop talking, stop publishing, stop violating the NDA or face prosecution, charges, prison. 7 Marines died, I told them. And you want me to stay quiet? Want me to let more people die? Those Marines died in a training accident. That's the official record. That's what their families were told. You changing that story now serves no purpose except to cause pain. The truth serves purpose. The truth saves lives. The truth is complicated. The truth is these creatures are contained. The area is off limits. Nobody gets hurt unless they trespass, unless they ignore warnings, unless they're foolish enough to enter restricted zones. So the best thing you can do, the thing that actually saves lives, is stop making this public. Stop drawing attention. Stop making it interesting to the exact type of people who'll ignore warnings and get themselves killed. They had a point. Publicity could backfire. Could attract exactly the wrong people. Could cause more deaths instead of preventing them. But silence had caused decades of deaths. People disappeared because they didn't know the danger, didn't understand the warnings, thought local legends were just stories. We compromised, kept the website, kept the documentation, but framed it as educational, anthropological, academic, less monsters are real, and more local folklore encodes actual dangers, enough to warn people who were planning to visit, not enough to attract thrill seekers. It worked, sort of. Some people heeded the warnings, avoided the area, took the no trespassing sign seriously. But others, there are always others, they saw it as challenge, proof they could succeed where others failed. And some of them went up there, and some of them didn't come back. I tracked them when I could, reported them missing, tried to stop them before they went. But you can't save everyone. Can't force people to believe warnings. Can't make people understand that some places aren't for exploration, aren't for conquering, aren't for humans at all. 4 years after the incident, Sarah and I drove up the mountain. Not to the mines, not to the facility, just to the overlook, where you could see the whole valley, where the locals said the creatures sometimes stood at night, watching the town, watching the roads, making sure humans stayed in their territory, stayed away from the deep places, the places that belonged to them. It was sunset, beautiful, orange light on the mountains, and as darkness fell we saw them, just silhouettes against the tree line, white shapes, 8 feet tall, headless. 5 of them, standing on the ridgeline, looking toward town, and one turned, looked directly at us, at me specifically, and I felt recognition, like it knew me, knew I was the one who killed its packmate, the one who survived, the one who escaped, and it was letting me know, we remember. We're still here. We're still watching. And if you come back, if you enter our territory again, we won't let you leave twice. Message received. I'd survived once through luck, through sacrifice, through 7 better Marines dying so I could escape. I wouldn't survive twice. Wouldn't get that lucky again. Wouldn't have brothers to buy me time with their lives. They're magnificent, Sarah whispered. Terrifying but magnificent. Apex predators that have survived despite everything we've thrown at them. Despite the government, despite hunters, despite us, they've adapted, evolved, learned to avoid us when we're strong and hunt us when we're weak. That's not monster, that's success, that's survival. She was right, they weren't monsters. They were survivors. Like me. We'd both lost everything in those tunnels. My brothers, their packmate. We'd both learned that the other species was dangerous, had to be avoided, had to be respected, or killed. And neither of us wanted more killing, neither of us wanted more death, so we avoided. Humans stayed in town, stayed on the roads, stayed out of the deep mines, and the creatures stayed in the mountains, stayed in the darkness, stayed in the places we'd learned not to go. And an uneasy peace existed. Not friendship, not trust, just mutual understanding that we were both dangerous, both deadly, both better off avoiding each other. I still live in Grafton, still work at the garage, still watch the mountains, still warn people when they ask about hiking those trails, camping near those mines, exploring that old facility, And some listen, some believe, some stay safe. But some don't, some go anyway. And sometimes they come back, traumatized, changed, marked like I'm marked. And sometimes they don't come back at all. And I add their names to my list, my record of the dead. The people who didn't listen, who didn't believe, who thought warnings were just stories. 7 Marines on my list, brothers I failed, brothers I survived, brothers who died so I could escape. And I honor them by staying, by warning, by trying to prevent more names being added to that list. The white things are still there. In the mountains, in the mines, in the deep places. They were there before we arrived. They'll be there after we leave. And the best thing we can do, the smartest thing, is respect their territory. Respect the warnings. Respect the knowledge earned by decades of deaths. Some places aren't for us. Some mountains aren't for climbing. Some mines aren't for exploring. And some creatures aren't for hunting. They're for avoiding, for respecting, for understanding that we're not the only apex predators, not the only species worth fearing. The Grafton Monsters taught me that. Cost me 7 brothers to learn it. But I learned, and I'm still here, still warning, still trying to make sure those deaths meant something, meant fewer people making the same mistakes, meant the warnings being taken seriously. So, if you're ever in West Virginia, if you ever see those mountains, those abandoned mines, those no trespassing signs, if you ever hear locals warning you away from certain areas, listen, believe them, respect the warnings. Because in those mountains, in those tunnels, in the darkness, they're waiting. The white things, the headless hunters, the Grafton Monsters, and they don't forgive trespassers. Don't spare survivors, don't show mercy twice. I got out once, I won't go back. I won't test them again, I'll stay here, in town, in safety, in the places that belong to humans, and I'll let them have their mountains, their mines, their territory, because that's the deal. That's the compromise. That's how we both survive. By respecting boundaries, by honoring warnings, by understanding that some lines shouldn't be crossed. 8 Marines crossed that line. 7 died. 1 survived to warn others. Don't make us add your name to the list. Don't become another missing person. Don't test whether the warnings are real. They're real, I promise you that. The warnings are real. The creatures are real. And the consequences of ignoring both are permanent. Stay out of the mountains, stay away from the mines, stay safe, please, because I don't want to add more names to my list. I don't want more families mourning. I don't want more people learning the hard way that some legends exist for reasons. The white things are watching, always watching, and they're patient, and they're waiting for the next person who doesn't believe, who doesn't listen, who doesn't respect the warnings. Don't be that person, please.